Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about
sex,
love,
magic,
desire,
purpose,
bliss,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
We discussed earlier in the season, how in Bliss, strangely, so you have your core relationships. We talked about that in season 13, but somehow in the early episodes of this season, that some relationships can take on a level of disposability, which seems a bit ironic, no? I feel like your core relationships are all in there, but others can be a bit more disposable.
And it makes sense though, because when you're living from like detachment, you've just got space to create. Like people can drop in and out of our lives in a way that we hadn't before, because we're not just so beholden to what we expect them to be like in our lives in the same way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we can know stuff and we can work towards certain things. And, that also depends on who we are, our makeup or our blueprint, all of that kind of stuff. But if we don't have rules that govern our connections, like, how frequently we have to text someone, like when we have to have a conversation, like, let's be official here, or let's do this, or, then like does lend itself to like, well, everything just flows. But then I guess the question will then come is like, then how do you know who matters? If you're so detached all the time, how do you know who matters? And this is definitely something I wondered. I definitely had moments of this where I was just like, and we've joked about it in previous episodes, where I was just like, wait, if I don't care, does that mean I don't care? Shit. Oh wait, do I not care? And then I assigned so much meaning to the fact that I didn't care as much that I thought I didn't care about the person, rather than understanding like this is what detachment was. And I could care extremely much, but at the same time also be cool with whatever happens because I trusted my fate and I trusted myself.
Yeah, and not just because you were just being a cool girl.
No, I'm definitely the opposite of a cool girl, let's be honest.
And hence the title, How Will I Know?
Yeah,
if we're like so cool with everything in bliss and everything's all good and relationships come in and out in a way in which they hadn't before, because in karma, everything had a purpose.
And everything was sequential. You broke up with one person, you met the next one.
Well, because everything was about who's gonna teach me something. Everything's about a lesson. Because the lesson is about our growth and thus our evolution. But if we're done growing by the time we get to bliss, but we are evolving, people will come in with a purpose. There's always a reason. There's no such thing as coincidence ever, even in bliss. But it's not the same as in I'm going to learn a lesson or I'm going to get hurt. It's more like, this person might show me something. Cool. Maybe we stay friends. Maybe we don't.
And that's the big paradigm shift, I would say, between K and half of M and half of M and B. It shifts from what am I needing to learn here? What lesson am I going to have to gruel through, to what is it showing me about me and my world and my life and my desires? So like that idea of like a pain-free life or like, a lesson-free life is very possible. But a lot of the times our minds don't know how to get us there. So we tend to come at stuff from our old ways of thinking. Oh, well, let me harken back to the past. Think about how I used to feel. Think about what I did wrong. Let me see if I can apply it here. What is this showing me about my like where I'm holding myself back, or where there's a rule that I don't know, or where I've limited my freedom in some way. And so if we're approaching it from there, it will look similar, although it really isn't, because it never really was anyway. But if we're kind of looking at it as like, oh, cool, what am I going to discover? Like, what am I going to experience in like a nice way? Then actually that will shift everything as well. It is a shift. It's a shift. And I feel like when you do that, you're kind of also, you're not searching for stuff. You're just inviting it in.
Yeah.
And then like you're inviting in all the nice stuff. And you definitely can feel it inside. I don't know if that makes any sense, but.
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, it's like you have a big open sign, like open for business. Like I'm going to be, because I'm very open-minded. I'm very open-hearted at this stage. I've got nothing that's going to close a single door, because there's nothing you can do that's going to hurt me or be anything to me, because I'm vibrating high enough. It's all good. So all of that expression will only be caught by or noticed by those who can vibrate high enough to notice. And that doesn't mean that they have to be happy or in bliss, but there has to be enough of a resonance. And resonance is a word you're going to start seeing through this season.
Okay, what does it mean?
Resonance, Rhea, would be as if it's the result of our attunement. And I think we talked about attunement in some previous season a little bit. And it's definitely in, I think, one of our books, probably.
Yeah.
And so attunement has everything to do with where do we direct our full consciousness. And I don't mean full body consciousness. I also mean higher consciousness. So that way we are so turned toward the divine to such a degree that starts to inform our entire reality. That's the resonance.
Okay.
Now, doesn't mean, again, you don't have to be happy or at bliss, but you have to be able to resonate with that enough.
Okay.
And that's nice because, again, in bliss, you're not looking at conflict or relationships filled with friction. You're past all that. Mm. So we pretty much allow people to sort of show up and then show themselves out, if they don't resonate with us. So for that, for the people who stay, we just determine their potential. Like, you're cool enough. It's, are they fun? Because remember, we said a few episodes ago, what is the primary feature we're looking for in our relationships and what we're doing when we're a bliss is it's fun. It's fun. We have to be able to have fun together. If I don't find you fun, I'm going to find you so fucking boring. Why would I even want to deal with that? Mm-hmm. And so we're looking at fun. We're looking at interesting. Interesting as in are our interests compatible? Everyone's interesting to some degree. I'm never going to write somebody off and say that they're really boring. I might seem boring to somebody else.
I'm sure.
Like compassion and honesty and everything I am at this stage of my life, I accept the fact that I'm not everyone's cup of tea, right? And that's fine. But do our interests align enough that we can have fun together? Or that I can learn something from you just as you can learn something from me. And not learn in an emotional way, but like factual way, right? Wisdom. Expand my wisdom and knowledge. And motivated. You want somebody who's just as hungry and desirous of whatever this life and this world has to offer.
Yeah.
Because that's what bliss wants to. Bliss wants to be in constant motion. So you don't want somebody who's complacent, who's just going to be good enough with whatever.
And who's just going to, taking themselves too seriously. Like, you want someone who's going to match you. Like, because otherwise it'll feel very two-dimensional.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it feels to me that sounds like it's more of like I feel you rather than I see you. Mm-hmm. Like, and I definitely think about my relationships, and that's actually really true and really quite, to be honest, jarring because it's so different. Because, throughout the karmic process and even in magic, it's about seeing someone in their entirety, right? Like, I can see you in the whole. I see the good, the bad, they're not neither good nor bad. Like, I just see who you are. There's no judgment. There's no nothing. It's just,
in all the
I
ways.
see all of you. Yeah.
Yeah. I see you in all the ways.
But bliss is like, I don't really care what I see because I feel you and we fit. So the rest is just a given. Mm-hmm. That's actually very strange because it's kind of like, and I guess that's the ignorance is bliss bit, because I don't have to know everything about you and everything that's going on to know that you're for me, or to know that you fit me. Yeah. I'm naturally going to be quite selective and choosy because I either feel nice in your company or I don't. Yeah. And I'll just feel it in my senses. Yeah. So if I feel it, that's kind of all I need to know. And then I'll learn. And it's actually really cool because then you start learning about the other person and you find out all those things that they fit you in all these ways, actually. Yeah. But you didn't know it yet. You just felt it was right. And then you discover like, oh my God, I couldn't have dreamt you up if I tried, because you've got all these really, our interests are so aligned and we have all the stuff that like matches. But I didn't ask you to fill out a 50-page questionnaire before we started. I just felt you. Yeah. And then as I'm getting to know you, we're clicking, click, 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 click. And it's just really nice.
Yeah. And that's the benefit of the karmic undoing process is we learn to feel ourselves. Yeah. We learn to create such an unwavering connection to ourselves because we have to be so honest about who we are, what we want, and where we're going as far as digging into our purpose and exploring that we can't lie about that anymore. We can't make ourselves small. We can't convince ourselves of something else. We can't lie to ourselves anymore. So by the time we start encountering people, when we're in that space of having a solid relationship to ourselves, that actually enables real relationship which is why we don't need rules to tell us when do we become official, when is the ideal time to have sex, because we trust ourselves to that degree.
Yeah,
that we can. Hence, exactly, this feels right. And I can trust that. And I don't have to know what the end result is either. What is the outcome? Hence the title as well, Ignorance is Bliss. Because in bliss, all the things we felt like we had to know to be assured of a particular outcome, we don't anymore.
The illusion was certainty. The illusion was safety.
Yes.
It's never been certain. And all you're doing is stripping away that illusion. And actually, whilst that sounds really scary because, you know, illusions make us feel better, actually, it allows us to not force ourselves to stay when we don't want to.
No.
Or run out the door before it's time. Or even if it's ever time. And it makes sense, I guess, like thinking about the last episode about like when we were talking about words and stuff and how it stops mattering so much about the words. Because like when you're really just like so open-hearted and you come from that space of like feeling the other person, everyone can show up more fully.
Yes. And that's the point, actually. In bliss, we're letting people show up. And it's not about us assigning that role to them, though. Does that make sense? Where because I vibe with you, because there's a resonance, because you're showing up as this, as in, part of what I mean when I said we determine their potential for us. Are they going to show up or are we going to show them out? What we tend to do, and this is our old wiring, by the way, and one of the things that gets rewired by the time we get to bliss is we do not pretend that they are something that they are not. So just because we might vibe, the reason why we have this level of detachment and we give them space is, are they going to show up in our lives or are they not? And that's how we determine our compatibility in terms of going forward. Do they show up or not?
But what about how in the last episode you said 1,000 times, in bliss everything has a sense of predictability? How do those two things work together?
That means to us. The predictability bit is how do I respond to things? I know myself well enough. We do not control other people and their choices.
But we do give them space to make them.
Yes, absolutely.
Because as we've always said, like, and I'm sure I've said this so many times now in like the later seasons on relationships, you really do want someone who chooses you because then you're free.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to be doing is contorting yourself any way at all so that the other person doesn't go anywhere. God, that's shit. When you're really able to be yourself and someone chooses you for that and then you choose them the same way, like, that's what we're working towards.
That's what you're saying. The same way. Our agendas are not like A and B, right? Apples and oranges, where I was intending this and they were misreading that. That's also not what we mean in Ignorance is Bliss. We are really clear about where all of this is.
But also, my imagination, what I imagine is that you're not going to really have many of those situations.
No,
like the misreading this and that is a projection of expectations that's much more karmic than anything else.
Or it can be post-karmic because while you've learned everything there is to learn, you haven't wired in that new practice of letting a person show up. Because what we tend to do socially is fill in the gaps where there are gaps. This person isn't calling me, but I felt like I'll call them and that's fine. I don't think there's a big deal with that.
Yeah.
But are we filling in the gaps that are there because we want this so badly that we're not reading theirs? But I mean, honestly, you're not going to necessarily be there once you're in bliss, but that's my point.
Yeah. But that's what I was wondering is like, it's like that mismatched intention stuff. I just don't feel is really like a bliss thing or even like after the V of magic bit.
No, it's not. By then, we're being really honest. And we're just pretty much saying, I mean, this is the whole title of this episode. How will I know? Well, you're going to know not because of your brain telling you something means, this behavior means X.
Oh my God,
You're going to know because we are like so tuned into ourselves that we can read the other person. Hence that Read My Mind episode a few episodes ago,
also,
right?
It's funny because what you just said made me think about something that I was thinking about recently. about how when everything looked like it was great on the surface, but my gut told me something was off. And I kind of said, oh, it's just my old wiring of expecting things to go wrong. And I try and rationalized it, right? Mm-hmm. And in the end, things went a bit sideways for a bit, right? And then at other points where I'm like, it looks like a fucking shit show. I feel like everything's okay. When you're able to really tune into yourself, that's what matters. And the mind will always throw out the prescribed dances, the routines, the rituals, the expected actions in order to kind of show us how we can predict the future. But none of that means anything. It's just a hymn sheet that no one has to sing from, right?
Yeah.
So being able to just listen to yourself and be like, I know what's going on here, and being clear in that respect in whatever relationship it is. I'm not even talking necessarily about romantic ones, funnily enough. Who am I? Really helps you see it for what it is.
Yes. And ultimately, when you're the one in bliss, you're the one who gets to make the choice. Because a person who, if they're not in bliss, but they encounter you, will likely want to stay because your vibe is high enough. It's really nice. And so it's not like when you're in your karma and you're reflecting back all the goodness that, I know people in their karma who people want to be around them because they're so generous and they're always reflecting everyone else's goodness, for lack of a better word, that they're very attractive to other people. Bliss is not the same. You're very attractive to people, but not a lot of people are going to necessarily be able to hang with you in that vibration. So the ones who do make their way through, again, often it's love that connects us. But ultimately, you're going to be the one who decides, are you fun enough for this? Are you interesting enough for bliss? Maybe not. So it's a bit of a self-select process, isn't it? So, when you're really, it just feels really natural, though, to be around somebody who's in bliss, but you won't necessarily know why.
But I guess it's also because from the other side, it's like, do I want to like source and be sourced with you, or am I just sourcing you?
Oh God!
And if I'm just sourcing you, I don't really feel like doing that because it's going to be frustrating to hang out with someone who cannot fully be themselves.
What's nice is you were just done thinking. Your mental body just gets to relax. I mean, it ideally has been relaxing, but again, with magic, like sometimes there's extra relax because in magic you're having to be intentional and you're very aware. But by the time you get to bliss, it is really about that vibration and that resonance to such a degree that you are just not having to think so much.
So what is the mind doing?
It's focused on your purpose. It's focused on creating, you're using your mental body. So mental body is so useful. And this is why like a lot of like manifestation people and like other people really focus on the mental body so much, is because the mental body is responsible for creating the future. Our future reality hinges on whether or not we can own it in our mental body and create it from there. Everything else has to be on board. And when it comes to 5D, if you do not have that emotional body that's healed enough to access the spiritual body from which all that sort of oneness blueprint exists, your mental body is just going to be like stagnating. Then fine, I can just manifest my own reality. But is that reality? It's like, yeah, maybe it's decent on this earth plane, but is that really what we're here for? No. We're here for a larger purpose. But that is pretty much what the mental body does and why manifestation is so reliant on it. But the mind is so limited and it's so defined by the ego or shaped by the ego in such a way that then that's why we focus on such minutia in manifestation. Because the ego wants what it wants to feel validated. And then you just go round and round in some fucking dysfunctional loop.
I had no idea that was the point of the mental body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense,
powerful.
Actually. It makes a lot of sense. Because then when you're playing it, it makes a lot of sense. Especially
so
something like,
Yeah. So isn't it funny when you get to bliss, I mean, you are in full divine consciousness as the full divine, that you're almost like, I don't have to think so much. So like, what's the point of the mental body? Is that from that space of full divine consciousness, the mental body is creating what is coming through the divine self. Does that make sense?
No.
The mental body understands its agenda. The agenda is then set by not just the higher self, but by the divine that is you. So the mental body is having to conceptualize a much larger reality than anybody's ever been capable of reaching, and having to figure out how to then bring that into this reality, which is why the physical body has to always be on board. Because if the mental body can conceive it in this world, then it is possible. And it's going to figure out how to make that possible. And you have the physical body to help create.
But it's figuring it out like in the background. It's not like here,
no, exactly.
So super conscious.
No,
and it's true because, it's like all of a sudden I can see
broader.
myself doing X or Y. That's the mental body.
Yeah.
All of a sudden this feels real.
It's the emotional body informing the mental body.
Okay. That way around.
Because it comes through. So yes, in many ways in 3D, we relied heavily on the mind and the mental body. So I can grasp this and then I can bring this into the physical world. When we come into full-bodied consciousness, we can pretty much continue to operate that way, but it all feels right. So therefore, our relationships start to heal. That's why we want full-bodied consciousness first, because it's the simplest way for us to grasp a new self and a new self in this world. And that's how we start to heal. We bring in higher consciousness, we bring in the spiritual body, because once we can do that, then that's where full transformation in this world can happen, because we're coming with our full divinity. So the full divinity says, we're not going to keep perpetuating any bullshit any longer. So we need the ego to stop saying, okay, I'm going to create this reality based on everything that I know is right and wrong, that is defined by the polarity that is created by the separation world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So by the time we are in bliss, we are the full divine that wants to create a whole new world, not just like a new life, like, I just want to change houses, but complete transformation that even goes beyond 5D oneness and says, okay, can we have everything we could possibly conceive of? That comes through the spiritual body. Feels right because I'm vibing with it. I'm so aware. Divine power, divine will wants all of this. The mental body saying, all right, let me see how we can make that actually happen on this earth plane. Right? And the physical body then gets on board.
And just starts doing.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how that works.
That's how creation works.
Yeah. Versus the other way around in 3D, where it was like, okay, if I can see it, it can become. It's possible, but that's not what we're working from anymore.
I guess it's just so much more open. When you're before bliss, you're creating your world. But then when after that, you're creating the world. Mm-hmm. So that's a much bigger space to be.
It's so big. It's so big that it starts to make.
And I guess that's why relationships, whether he called me or not, really doesn't make a difference anymore. Or whether, your relationships do to some degree or another have to be set, because there's so much energy focusing on that. You're not really spending enough time changing the world, as it were.
No.
Or changing your world. There's so much more to it.
Yeah, and that's why manifestation just will stop working for people. Or those who teach it are going to end up doing magic or other ways in which people can kind of touch upon their creative power, so they don't lose that sense of, oh no, I'm so not a powerful person. When the reality is you are. Exactly, you're just more powerful than that bullshit practice.
Yeah.
So again, everything we said in all those early seasons about how things just lose their potency in 5D, that's how that works.
Because you just become more powerful in it.
Exactly.
You don't need your mind and what you think you should want to dictate your reality.
Not at all.
You're happy to just transform it all to something you can't even have conceived of in your 3D. And it's funny that we spoke about this in the magic season, about that whole thing about what you do when you get what you want but you don't want anymore thing. And that's kind of that also. It's that kind of
I forgot about that episode.
Yeah, it's the ego stuff, because but not ego, because actually once you're in that space, you're just I want to keep experiencing how powerful and incredible I am. And that could be in the form of amazing sex and being grounded in this physical reality. It could be in the form of seeing my purpose reach more people, or it could be in the form of transforming the world.
Absolutely.
So how will I know? Does it fit with my new world?
And just knowing that all of that knowing we had, or it's understanding that all the knowing we had starts to take a back seat. Not so much to feeling as much as it is like that sort of heightened awareness or resonance. So the resonance is just going to mean so much the further into bliss we get. But we can already begin by just understanding that we are so much more, and others can be so much more in our lives than they had ever been before.
That's so nice. This episode is brought to you by Karma Magic Bliss. For more information, resources, and links to our books, check out our website, karmamagicbliss.com, and Karma Magic Bliss across all socials.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.